So, Dazza Greenwood, you're going to tell us in a few minutes a little bit about the very specific project that is happening right now. And it's happening right now. It kicked off earlier today, so I'm just going to hand over the mic to you, and please kick it off.
All right, let's do this thing. I'm going to hack the law. Do I need a clicker? That's how we say it in Boston. Clicker? Where's Ryan?
Right here.
Oh, can you click? Clickety click. Okay, so we're getting loaded because there's bear in the back. This is a Flashtalk about applying governance and blockchain in the context of music and media. And the purpose of this Flashtalk is to basically provide a way that people can get engaged in this. So Tony introduced at the top of the evening Jameson Dempsey, there we go, who is one of the directors of Legal Hackers. And at Legal Hackers, something that we like to do is hack the law. And so we have a very engaged kind of method to convene people, business people, legal people, technology people, thank you, to identify a challenge and to come up with creative solutions for it. So this particular challenge, just to set the context, comes from a collaboration between the MIT Media Lab and the Open Music Initiative, which is based in Berklee College of Music, the other Berkeley. And their challenge is, it's a nonprofit that's to create open source protocol for uniform identification of music rights holders and creators. Challenge is, one way to look at it is it's a digital identity challenge, and it's digital identity of music rights holders and creators. And then they've gone a little further to say what the aspect of it that they want to hack on and create a solution for is an open source protocol. That's a pretty good way to come at something like this. Why is this relevant to us right now, right here in this room? Well, the Music Modernization Act was just enacted by Congress days ago. And like the simple summary is it establishes a new collective that oversees collection and payment of royalties to artists and in the music streaming context. There's a little image of it. Here's what it actually does. Like the high points are that it provides a way to basically, I'd say, discovery mechanism and addressing mechanism for these rights holders. And very interestingly, it creates a kind of consensus-based new collective called the Mechanical License Collective, which among other things is authorized to take money so that if you want to use some music, there's a way that you can provide royalties to this is not like legally correct, but basically like this escrow fund, and they can collect it, and then they find a way to distribute it down to the rights holders. So we can right now it's a bloody mess, being able to find all of the rights holders it's a very manual process involving a lot of email and phone calls. And there's also some standard contracts and standard licenses for bulk digital asset exchange of rights. So this raises some governance questions, I think. One of them is, what is this new collective going to actually do? What kind of database and what kind of system, what kind of processes and methods? Sorry, I changed my altitude, freaking the camera guy out. What kind of systems and methods are they going to apply? How should the digital identity aspect of this royalty collection and distribution mechanism be architected? So some of it is like, how should it operate? What are the functions and the flows? And some of it is, who makes the rules and how will we decide what it should do and how it ought to be changed over times? And then another very particular one that I've been thinking about lately is how would or should it interoperate with other identity systems? What if you have collectives of musicians that already have identity within a community or self-sovereign identity? Is there a way to interoperate and integrate with those, or should there be? So, some of the governance questions are, if you do a linear extrapolation, what usually happens with these kinds of statutory mechanisms is there's some hierarchical structure that the governance organization, the collective that's defined in the statute comes up with. And that might look something like the US Patent and Trademark Office has a way to register copyrights. It's a registry, and it's a hierarchical government public sector organization. You could reflect and support that with Fabric, Hyperledger Fabric, with Tendermint, no biggie. You could imagine a federated collective of some kind, something that might, have as a source identity that comes from other entities and that stitches it together. You can imagine something more like self-sovereign identity that's, I don't know why I said this, but it calls standard atoms, but something more like maybe the coming legal.io protocol for lawyers that's blockchain based and can be standards and protocol compliant. This is a governance question. Another way to express it is with this beautiful art in the back here. What type of network, what kind of type of node structure, what kind of graph would be appropriate for the governance? Well, the answer is, I don't know, but people are curious about this. It's happening now. The rollout's happening in the next few months. And so the MIT Media Lab has kindly made its good offices available to hack the law in this case. And we were convening a series of hackathons that Tony mentioned under the banner of legalhackathon.org and in collaboration with legal hackers and other organizations to have a coordinated set of hackathons and other creative events where business people, attorneys, technologists, and others can come together and attempt to develop creative solutions. You can join Beth. Hey, Beth. Yay.
Beth, please stand up and turn around and please.
Beth, who's developed this great mechanism design approach, and I here as soon as after the Flash Talks, and this is the kickoff of events all around the world that are happening in Tokyo and Vienna and Boston and New York and Kansas City and Dallas and Houston and everywhere. We're going to kick it off and start identifying some of the opportunities, problems, and prospects for the governance and the architecture of this system. That'll be an input to the other hackers around the world. You can find all these distributed events at legalhackathon.org if you're going to be in other cities and hack with us. And then also we're going to have a workshop at the Media Lab in January where we do a week-long deep dive into this and get some of the key stakeholders from the industry and other places, and of course legal hackers, to see if we can't come up with a solution that has better inputs to the decision makers, or not, or just hacks it and something we could do ourselves. So that concludes my Flash Talk. Come hack the law with us tonight.
Thank you, Daz. That's and the reason I love Dazza is he's all about actually doing it. I mean, I think the MIT Media Lab ethos, the MIT ethos generally is about hacking and going out and making changes. And again, this isn't necessarily de rigueur for lawyers generally. I know for engineers and developers, it's part of the course. But we're lucky to have Dazza in the world because he is a force of inspiration for, I think, lawyers everywhere to be able to be part of building and building together. And again, we think about governance from these theoretical frameworks and the transformational possibilities, but I think what Daz has laid out here is that this is happening right now. We've got a new framework for governance around how we coordinate and co-make music together, and how that licensing framework for doing so might totally facilitate that coordination to be creative together in ways that, frankly, laws are preventing us from doing. Right. And so that could be done in the way that the legislation is sort of framing, with a centralized entity that's governing everything? Or are there frameworks for using decentralized governance methods, for example, on blockchain? And are there aspects of that on-chain framework that can be so legitimate that any centralized framework is just outcompeted because everybody chooses the decentralized mechanism? But then on the other hand, are there some aspects of governance that we do need to sort of keep at that top level off-chain, even though there's a huge layer of it that is on-chain and decentralized? And so that's, I guess, just trying to put that framework in context of what we've been talking about, Dazza, hacking the law.
Yeah, we have whiteboards We have whiteboards in here, we have a table, we have gray matter. Let's put it all together and hack the law. Come on.
Yeah. Dazza Greenwood.